Resident Evil 2.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and start this. I'll go ahead and start this kind of big topic that got me a lot of thinking about over the weekend. And I'll tell you, Jack, it got me so deep in thought that after that I had to literally put up a blank Word document and like my own journal, just write out all my thoughts as much as I can until I can like come to my own conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And let's, you know what? Maybe I can. Well, let's see. Let me check, make sure I didn't say anything slanderous in that document. I shouldn't have. It's let's see. Where is it? Where's my Google? Wait, no. Okay.
Where's my Google Doc? Oh, I don't want to hear that as a VTuber.
Oh, guys, I have an announcement to make. I'm gonna post my Google Doc on my X account. Here it is. All right, there you go. And now our audience can see it. So I'll read through this briefly. Again, this is just more trying to put my thoughts onto digital paper, and we'll see. Let's see. We'll see what you guys think. So let me begin. Today I watched a video entitled "Remakes in Art: Can Games Be Replaced?" by the YouTube channel Nero. In this video, Nero presents the many arguments and discussions surrounding the controversial debates around video game remakes and their status as works of art. In a little over an hour, Nero showcases many arguments and examples of this debate from classic cases, like popular remakes of mainstream games like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Resident Evil, to interviewing independent game developers who are creating an homage to Nintendo 64 3D platform games and their unique perspective in utilizing modern game tools to recreate antiquated game designs and aesthetics. In truth, many of the discussion points Nero brings up in this video are points that I am intimately familiar with due to my past experience with this specific subject matter. The only novel concept presented by Nero that interested me was his elaborate explanation on how video games are a unique form of art that are directly tied to the available technology of its time, and how people can interact with them. He presents a case that with other media such as painting or film, the way people largely interact with those two forms of media have mostly been unchanged. A person observes a painting or creative work and draws a conclusion from said work. This same idea with film, except the person observing the work for a duration of time. With games, a person must be an active participant in order for the game to function. Even the most simple or mind-numbing games require a minuscule participation from the player. And the era a game is created determines how that interaction would proceed. You will not play an arcade game from the 80s in the same manner as a modern game, and vice versa. I find myself drawn to this topic over and over again because it is something worth discussing. Prior to this video, my conclusion to this debate was this: a video game can be art, but not all games are inherently art. It is helpful to remind ourselves that video games made for profit are first and foremost a product. This applies to movies, television shows, and music as well, because their primary purpose is to provide entertainment in exchange for your capital and time. Much like how film critics would not consider yearly blockbuster movies as serious artistic expression, there are genres of games that cannot be labeled as having artistic expression, such as sports games, racing games, arcade games, MMOs, or competitive multiplayer games. And it is rare to find people who would disagree with this notion. So when the discussions surrounding art and video games are brought up, a majority of the time, people are commenting on single-player games that emphasize crafting a narrative for the player to go through, and that's the important distinction. Games that emphasize crafting a narrative for the player. I won't spend too much on this point because there are plethora of examples of games that craft narratives incredibly well and unique. There are games that use traditional cinematic techniques to tell emotional stories in a compelling way, such as The Last of Us or Metal Gear Solid series. There are games that use abstract world building and detailed environments to create a world for the player to uncover and learn, like in many of From Software's action role-playing games. Those games, without any doubt, are works of art. So then here comes the conundrum. What about remakes of these single-player games? are they works of art too? If Metal Gear Solid is considered a work of art, then can the remake, Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, also be a work of art since it inherits everything and then some from the original game? And that's where I work kind of stuck because I kind of had an epiphany that I will share later. So those are like my immediate thoughts upon watching this video here. Remakes in art can games replaced by Nero, and it's a fairly new video. It came out 3 days ago. It's a little over an hour. If this topic interests any of y'all, I would recommend watching it, especially if you have the time. So a lot of the stuff that just my thoughts come directly from that video, and just anything that I have written down here, as I was saying. So anything that kind of what immediate thoughts come to your mind regarding this topic?
I think I can agree with the fact where the obvious statement: a video game can be art, but not all games are inherently art. Because I don't know if there are going to be people out there that think a Madden 2K is an art form, because like it really is just like,
it's meant to
how would I even say it?
It's meant to simulate.
It's meant to simulate.
It's meant to simulate a sports game. And I came to kind of also, as I was writing this, I came kind of to a point of like, I think if as people who enjoy video games, we need to be comfortable with the fact that, hey, we can enjoy a game and think it's something's really good without having to try to elevate it to some high status of art. One thing that the example that draws to me is I think of the Devil May Cry and Bayonetta games. They have some sort of artistic expression. Well, no, I'm sorry, no, I'm not. They do attempt to engage in having a narrative that is engaging, but I'm not going to tell you those games have a story that really makes you think or is going to change how you view things in the world. But those games are not meant to do that. With Bayonetta, is like, hey, we got this cool lady witch character who has guns on all four of her limbs, and we're going to put her into these crazy situations that you get to play through. Devil May Cry is the same thing. It's all about, hey, you get to be this cool half demon, half human guy with all the weapons you can handle, and just kill a bunch of demons from the first mission to the last. And they'll include things to make it compelling. Because if it's just a simple, there's let's say you just fight monsters, but there's nothing to engage you, then why keep playing? Then it's kind of ends up kind of like a more like an arcade game where you're just going from one level to the next, just beating stuff up. And if it's a short experience, like let's say like an arcade game where you can finish it in 2 hours, then you get the most of it. Then you're not really worried about having to be that engaged with whatever plot or narrative it has. But because Bayonetta and Devil May Cry games they're more than 2 hours long, they're like, okay, we need something to keep the player invested. And so the best things that those games will do is, all right, we will have a narrative that's just engaging enough for you to be interested in, but because the actual plot and world buildings are mildly interesting but not all that impressive, they focus more of like, check how cool our characters are. And and that's why like every cutscene with Dante and Bayonetta, they're doing something outrageous, because that's kind of like your intrinsic reward as the player, as like you get to see the next outrageous thing that these characters do. And is that artistic expression? It is a kind of artistic expression, but it's not one that but it's not a strong one. So games can have a form of artistic expression, but necessarily mean that it is the main focus, or one that is trying to be front and center, like the Metal Gear games. Metal Gear games, they're all about putting like, hey, this is we're all about, and here is what we're trying to say, and they metaphorically kind of beat that message into the ground. Devil May Cry, Nam is like, hey, look, we got some cool characters, and they're gonna go on this wacky tale for you to enjoy, and it doesn't get any more deeper than that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I could see.
Nothing wrong
No,
with
I
that
could
at
see it.
all. So now, okay, now here's now. Of course, that's just kind of like the basis of our game's art. But the crux of what Nero was talking about was about remakes. Can and like the idea of, if games can be art, can you remake art? And is it still a work of art if you're remaking something that already exists? And I remember as I was typing this down, I kind of came to, I had a few you like aha moments. So number one,
Hmm.
there is precedence of remaking something and still be a form of art where you're not just copying. And it's with, not with video games, but it is with music.
Okay.
And specifically when it comes to doing covers. Now, for the most part, when any artist does a cover of another artist's songs, for the most part, it's just they do either a straightforward, they're not gonna mess with the secret sauce of a cool song. They're gonna play it straight, maybe do something a little bit different from the original, but it's more often than times an artist just wants to play their favorite song, and that's it. Is
Hmm.
that art? No, it's a performance, and that's fine. But then you have artists who they look at an existing song and go, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna do my own thing with it. And sometimes it fails, and sometimes it is like a big success. And the example that comes to my mind would be the song "Hurt," originally performed by Trent Reznor and performed and written by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails. Yet, despite that, the version everyone knows of that song is the one by Johnny Cash. And why everyone associate that song with him now, even though he didn't write it, was because we hear that original song. He took it and he goes, all right, I'm gonna play it the way I will play it, and along with the producer that was working with him at the time, he put his stamp of, okay, this is how we're going to perform this song, so that it's not just a novelty, because back then, think about like back in the late 90s, old country star singing an alternative rock song. On paper, that sounds horrible. It's like trying to imagine, random example, imagine trying to imagine Billie Eilish singing a Limp Bizkit song.
Hmm.
You think about that and you go, on paper, you're going, okay, how would this work? You guys are in two different types of genres and in different style. There's no way it will work. Same idea with Johnny Cash and Trent Reznor. They're so distinctly different and from two different eras of music. But he took that song of Hurt and he made it, and as Trent Reznor said it in an interview, he goes, when he heard Johnny Cash sing the song and then he saw the music video that was made for it, Trent said, at that moment the song was no longer mine. Johnny made it his. And that's the most famous example of, you could say, a remaking another work of art. And as you can see a lot of that in music. So now, can that same philosophy apply to video games? That's where we reach the gray area. Can we attribute that to video games?
It really depends. As long as the remake itself does feel like a remake, because there are some that claim that they're a remake, but they're not, or like they're more glorified remasters. No, I would say yeah, that there would be a way, there would be a time where you could say that that does count as a work of art that is separate from from the original piece.
Is there any
Uh,
ones that come to your mind?
Let me see. The one that I would say that would come to my mind most is probably, I would say, the Resident Evil remakes, no matter if it's tank controls or the newer ones currently. They have their own spin on it. If we see right now with how Resident Evil 4 has been treated in the remake, it's completely different in vibes. I haven't played it myself. All I know is that whenever I see a few friends playing it, it shows that it's more along the lines of it being more horror than action. Because we already know the original Resident Evil was very much into action horror. It had its horror elements, but we could see that the way it was played, you had Leon pile driving people, you had Leon giving these witty one-liners. May and now with the remake, it's a little bit more serious. Can we say that we agree with the direction? I don't agree with the direction because I kind of liked the vibe that the original gave off. But as they say, art is subjective to whoever. Like if people, I'm pretty sure there are people out there that really enjoy the new remake for RE4, just like how there's people that don't enjoy the remake of RE4.
Now what about Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater?
I would love to put my own 2 cents about that, but I have not seen any gameplay of the new Delta game, and I can't give you
All right,
a proper response for that.
fair enough. Well, I think I'll put it. Actually, no, I'll put it like in a spectrum. So the RE remakes actually are right in the center in that they are somewhat faithful to the original games, but they still do their own take, and they are
Mhm.
not 1-to-1 copies of the originals for better or for worse. And so because of that, you can you can actually critique them and judge them outside of the original games because of how differently designed that they are. You can definitely make your comparisons, but you know you're you literally are comparing two different types of games within the same subgenre. So
Mhm.
Resident Evil meets in the in the middle. When you go more to the left, where the remake becomes less of where that subtitle then doesn't become too appropriate, what I'm thinking about is Final Fantasy VII remake and the fact that they call it a remake even though the game is not actually a remake. You go through the similar scenarios from the original PS1 game, but not only do you
Mhm.
get a alternate story, you even get an ending to that game that leads to a whole different story altogether. So at that point, then it comes at that point, is that Final Fantasy VII remake even a remake at that point if it's a different game?
Mhm. I still count it as a remake, even though they have changed everything completely to it. Uh, well, actually, I don't know.
Yep.
Because for me, I'm torn between the two ideas of one being, yeah, whatever it is, if it has the same character, same setting, same everything, then it's a remake. But if it does change, unless if it changes major plot points,
Which Final
that's where I kind of draw the line.
Final Fantasy VII does. Or Final Fantasy VII remake does. And because of that, this full story is still not finished. You have they took one game and they decided to alright, let's remake it, quote unquote, into its own little alternate timeline trilogy. And when you put out that,
I
yep,
see.
and you put it like that, you go, it might as well be its own like a different game entirely. Like, just take off
Yeah.
the remake at that point. Don't call it that if you're not actually remaking the game. Which I always thought funny, but I think it's more of a marketing purpose. They put a remake because that's something Final Fantasy fans have wanted for years. So that's a, like, let's say when you go left of that from Resident Evil, where it diverges so much that you can debatably not even call it a remake. It's just a different game with the same characters. Now on the complete opposite, we go to the right of RE. We have we have then this interesting conundrum: the Crash Bandicoot Insanity trilogy, in which it is remakes of the first three Crash Bandicoot games. Aside from adding extra challenges, and of course, updating all the models and textures, like, so that it's up to modern day standards. They're the same three games, and the only differences are people who are that people can spot are comes to like the minutia, as in like, oh, Crash doesn't jump exactly like he did in the PS1 games, or oh, they change a little bit of how this is designed in this level to accommodate the newer models. Aside from those minute kind of details, they're the same games. So that they have that type of remake where it's just that. Now, would you consider those a work of art if all it is just they put in different textures and assets?
I don't think so, because it's how you would end up restoring a painting. If it's the same exact painting restored, it doesn't really change what it was already trying to portray.
And that's a funny aspect of it because the video talks about more in depth, and we're coming to a close of this. We'll move on from it. The Nero was interviewing these indie game developers, and they're making a game that is a homage to Super Mario 64. And he was talking with them and how like how dedicated are you guys to making this game like have the same type of design and game to Super Mario 64. They go up to a limit, and because the funniest part, what to me the funniest part is like, it's like, we love that game a lot, we do, but we are not making a 3D platformer that runs at 20 frames a second, which is what the original Super Mario 64 ran on. So then he adds stuff like, we're gonna make this game, we're making this game that, yeah, it's homage 64, but you can play it at any frame rate you want. We're gonna, the camera control is going to be with your right stick. You're not gonna press buttons to move the camera certain angles like in the original game. And they're gonna give their character a lot more fluid movement options than Mario did in that game. So then I begs the question: well, if you're doing all of that, then is it still an homage to Mario 64? If your intent is to replicate that old style of 3D platformer, especially when when you're trying to look like one, like, so then or present the question: well, are you guys really then? Are you guys really being true to the game's original intent if you're going to include all these more uh, not quality of life, but all these improvements of technology into your game?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the fascinating part, because uh especially now within the emulation and in and with the modding scene, you can completely change the way a game is meant to be played. It's even artistic ones, to the point that can you get the same experience of playing those games with all these added bonus? Like, would you feel the same way of playing original Ocarina of Time at 20 frames a second as you would with 60 frames a second with all the visuals properly upscaled to 4K? Not like,
Yeah.
yeah, not like a remodel with new models. Not that, like, it's just like upscale. Just simply that you still get the polygons and everything. It just won't look like butt on your modern monitor.
By that point, it's literally just a remaster rather than a remake.
Yep. So it's just funny how games are subject to that, and that when you think about it, a painting, all paint the people who restore paintings, all they have to do really is just find the exact like delicate colors to fill in with any aging or deterioration. But with games, it's more so like we have to constantly make sure that this old piece of software can be played on new hardware. Is a constant I'm thinking of like adding an extra tube into your arm to put you on life support. That's at least that's a funny visual. Like it's a
The poor thing.
yeah, it's just a funny visual, and because of that, it then comes to the question of like, at what point do we kind of have to like put a stop to that? Now, obviously, PC, it's the best way to keep all of that stored, but you still have to like go into the source code and go, all right, we gotta clean this up a bit because we is not running well anymore. So it's fascinating, and you have people who argue no, you should keep the same limitations because that's how it's supposed to be, damn it. But then there's other people that go no, the game should not be limited by the hardware software of their time. We can improve them, and then they could be the games as they were intended, and it goes back and forth between those two groups of thought. And you know what, the thing for me, for myself, to me, it's a very neutral answer, and it's kind of a boring one because my answer is it depends. Because
But it really does.
yeah, because unlike I'm playing through Tomb Raider and I'm playing it with the upgraded visuals, because guess what? I like looking at the model they have for Lara Croft, and I don't like looking at the super sharp polygon model that was originally made. Do you want to say in the last thoughts for till we move on from this? 'Cause I think I pretty much said everything I want to say.
No, I think everything you said, I agree with.
Yeah. Oh, it just shows how smart I am. No, I toot my own horn.
All right, I disagree with everything you say.
All right then. Whoa. All right. All right then. We gotta debate me, bro. We gotta drag this on for 3 more months and make sure that we get big enough channels so everyone can super chat us. Give us the money so
And
we
then
can debate.
Eventually, we end up separating the channel again.
This was an edited clip from our weekly live stream, The HackJack Show. If you enjoy this content, subscribe to be notified of all of our future videos and catch the show live every Monday night. Hype the video, don't forget to press the like button, and leave your comments down below. This is Hack, sign off. You see Ghetto's comment? Yeah, because the Kiwami 3 not R because it sucks ass. Hey, art can be bad. I'm just saying. Art can be bad.
Yeah, that is true. Art can be bad.